Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone. So, nice to be back with you all. I'm like...
What happened to your hand?
What happened to my hand? Nothing. Oh, is it purple? I was helping my wife cut a purple sweet potato. So,
Nothing happened to your hand.
nothing happened to my hand. Nothing bad at least, Kaushik. Thank you for your concern. So we're doing this thing again. What is this? Maybe I'll do this. Alright. How was everyone's Christmas time? Christmas. Good? Did you get a lot of presents for Christmas, Kaushik?
Yes.
That's good. That's the tradition here. We're going to talk about kind of the universal message of the holiday season. You know, everyone, even in the West, they have the religious time of the year. It's supposed to be based on religion. It's not really based on religion too much, you know. It's more based on consumerism and presents and buying stuff. But there are people who are celebrating it sincerely. My wife and I tried to be people who could try to celebrate it sincerely or encourage our family members to at least think of some of the themes of celebrating it sincerely. But yeah, we live in an interesting world. So anyhow, we're going to go to Bhagavad Gita. We're going to do chapter 16, text 21. And we'll start with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Jai, thank you so much. All right. So we're gonna go. I'm gonna give you a little precursor to this verse. So this is a verse talking about the 3 gates to hell. Who wants to go to hell? None of us want to go to hell, right? But actually, a lot of the worldview of religion is fear. I don't want to go to hell. I don't want to be in a hellish life. So people practice dharma, religion, because they don't want to get the fruits of a dharma, which is misery and suffering or hellish type of life. So this is, how we do it. Now, why is even the ramifications there? Why does God set up a system that punishes us and gives us hellish type of arrangements if we don't do that which is proper? That's a good question. Why? Because we need to be ultimately brought, hopefully willingly. That's why the material world is here. We have free will. It has to be willingly to a place of good qualities, godly qualities, that which makes us suitable for the spiritual world. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, those qualities are in the first 4 verses of the 16th chapter, or first 3 verses, I should say, I'm sorry. And I'll just read the English. It's the Blessed Lord said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion, and freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, and steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, freedom from envy, and the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities of son of Bharata belong to godly men endowed with the divine nature. That's how this 16th chapter starts. These are all the good qualities. And then it goes, but here is actually the demonic nature. And I remember reading from Bhagavad Gita the first many times I read it, I always liked the idea of having these qualities, but then when it goes into the next set of qualities, I said, oh, I'm actually closer to this. I'm closer to these more demonic qualities. So ultimately, this is not ideal. But this is part of our experience, and we should get go beyond. So now, back to the verse, you're so, well, that's one set of verses, but you told us it was 21. Yes, we're going to 21. It talks about throughout the whole chapter how the demonic person thinks it's all about their own selfish sense pleasure. Sex is the prime goal, or the sex pleasure is the prime goal for the demonic person. And any type of God or rules of God, that's not for them. They're atheistic by nature. So, then it gets to the end, and Krishna is telling about the 3 gates that lead to hell, and that's what this verse is. So here are the 3 gates that lead to hell. You ready? Text 21, everyone. Anyone have it up? Do you want Bhagavad Gita's? 16:21. You can have it. Okay, maybe while you guys get that up, I'll let you know what we were doing. I suffered a lot this past few days. It was really like, I was so grateful to be here, to be in the Lord's service is actually such a privilege. It's not like, it's not a chore. And a lot of times my life feels like it's a chore. Oh, we got to do this now. No, we have to do this now. But actually, getting kind of taken away from my daily services for like 10 days and being replaced with the alternative, which was the life that I grew up living, or the life that we grew up living. 6 days is enough. I think whatever it was, it felt like an eternity actually. But whatever it was, it felt so long. 16:21. So yeah, it was really, really difficult for us, especially because we've built this life that we can do really wholesome things every day, and we can do devotional service every day under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada and his disciples, and the institution of Krishna conscious persons that are guiding us on how to do this and how to engage others. So actually, a lot of times you can take things for granted until they're not there anymore. And so, just coming in here and seeing how beautiful the deity is and all the flowers everywhere and how happy and bright everyone looks. Maybe we should go away more often, because my wife and I were noticing that a couple of you look more bright than when we left. I said, oh my gosh. Maybe we're the problem. But anyhow, it's... we're really happy to be back, and really grateful that there's facility for devotional service. And please don't take it for granted if you are ever having some services in your life and you're feeling a little overburdened by them. Just remember there's an alternative to this Krishna consciousness that you were likely living before, and if you just go back into that phase, maybe go visit some family members or something like that, you might find, okay, I'm really grateful for what I've been doing. I'm really grateful for the progress I'm making. And so that happened to me over this 6-day break. A lot of emotions, anger and disappointment, and so many things were arising in me over these past few days. I'm really happy to be here, and I was really trying to engage myself and see how I can engage my surroundings in Krishna consciousness. But it's not natural for most people to just engage in Krishna consciousness. It's kind of a very subtle, and it's a gift. It's not a very easy thing to do. It is easy, but we're not easy. So, and most people are not easy. So it's not easy to engage your environment in Krishna consciousness. So one of the things I tried to do, and this is kind of the theme of today's talk, was, what's accepted as religion here? And for my family and our families, maybe Jesus would be the best bet of what's accepted for religion here. So I said, okay, what can we do? How can we engage them? There's no reading books. There's no reading the Bible. It's all screens. Everything is, the only engagement is screens. What's on the, and in specific, what's on the TV. So I said, all right, what type of movies can we watch? And there's not that many out there. What type of movies can we watch that will help us get closer to the point? And actually, we found a few. And I'm grateful that I learned what I learned from the movies. We tried to stick to documentaries because that's was better than fiction, in our opinion, at least. But yeah, actually, some really interesting things, and it was a really healthy reminder that all religion, all the tradition, all the religious prophets and saints and messiahs, and they're all saying the same thing, in essence. And that was what I just read, the 16:1 through 3, are those messages of godliness, how to be godly. But in order to do that, you have to repent. Repent means to change one's mind. It also comes with connotations of sorrow and guilt and shame, which is healthy if you have things you need to repent for in your life. We all probably have some. I know I have plenty. But we have to change our mind. So this is what Krishna gives. He gives the godly qualities. You see, you have godly qualities, Arjuna. But this is what the demonic qualities look like. And that's what this whole 16th chapter is. And then it's going to talk about some really, how you get the demonic qualities. And these are the 3 gates leading to this hell. And that's what this verse is. So let's see here. And then we'll talk about the positive. But sometimes we have to talk about the negative. Text 21. Trividham narakasyedam Dwaram nashanam atmanaha Kama krodhastata lobha Tasmade tatrayam tyajet Trividham, 3 kinds of narakasya, hellish, idam, this, dwaram, gate, nashanam, destructive, atmanaha, of the self, kama, lust, krodha, anger, tatha, as well as lobha, greed, tasmat, therefore, etat, these, trayam, 3, tyajat, must give up. Translation, there are 3 gates leading to this hell. Lust, kama, anger, krodha. I dealt with a lot more anger than I was expecting these past few days. And greed, lobha. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. Purport. The beginning of demoniac life by Srila Prabhupada. The beginning of demoniac life is described herein. One tries to satisfy his lust, and when he cannot, anger and greed arise. A sane man who does not want to glide down to the species of demoniac life must try to give up these 3 enemies, which can kill the self to such an extent that there will be no possibility of liberation from this material entanglement. Or, in other words, these are the gates to hell. So let's start. What's kama? What's kama? Lust. But lust for what? Yes, it can be anything. But there's 2 words I'm looking for. It's the opposite of self-realization. Sense gratification. This is what kama is. The body has some senses. It wants the senses to be aroused, and when inevitably somebody gets in the way of your own bodily sense gratification, then you get angry. And this is krodha. And then ultimately, greed also is arising. Even if you get what you want, say someone doesn't get in the way of your sense gratification. Yes. Say someone doesn't get in the way, then you just want more and more and more and more and more. So this is actually, these are the gates to hell. It's actually sense gratification, chasing sense gratification. And it starts with the chase, and then it ultimately results in the all kinds of deceptive and competitive and all kinds of less than ideal character defects that arise in trying to obtain your sense gratifications. So ultimately, this is recognized by Krishna. This isn't just recognized by the Vedic understanding. The Christians, what it means to be truly a Christian, Christ-like, recognizes this. The Jews as well, or the it's probably a better word than just Jews, but those who practice the teachings of the Old Testament, or even those who are practicing Islam in the purest way, they're fully focused on godly life, on godly principles. Yes, some of the details are different. Prabhupada, and even my own understanding of, say, let's say, most Western people, and, I studied different samples of Western people these past few days, just observing our families. And the main thing that's actually an issue is the lack of mercy, which would lead to the eating of meat. Eating of meat is probably the worst thing that most people in the West deal with. Now, drinking and intoxication, these are also quite problematic as well in many phases of life. But the eating of meat is one that's not ideal at all. But interestingly enough, we watched a documentary called Christspiracy. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it. But it's basically a set of documentaries made by these animal rights activists, actually. And the animal rights activists, they wanted to study, how is there a spiritual way to eat meat? Because they were interested in spirituality, so they actually studied this. And actually what they found was that there didn't appear to be a spiritual way to kill. There didn't really appear to be a spiritual way to kill animals, and they were checking out the different kosher farms, the halal farms, and they didn't see anything notably different in the spiritual principles. But interestingly enough, they did do some studying of the life of Jesus. You've heard of Jesus of Nazareth. You've heard of this before? Yes, no? Yeah, right. So where is Nazareth? Does anyone know? It's a city in Israel. But interestingly enough about this city is that city actually didn't exist. It didn't exist at the time of Jesus. There was no Nazareth, which is really odd because they said Jesus was of Nazareth. That's what everyone was saying. But you can look at the modern historical context of, well, there must be a Nazareth. Why would everyone say Jesus of Nazareth? So actually what the actual Greek, what they said is Jesus the Nazarene. So okay, what's a Nazarene? So they did some investigation. What is a Nazarene? A Nazarene was a sect of Judaism, and the Jews, or those who practice this religion, they actually took to many of the godly qualities we mentioned in the first verses we read in the beginning of this chapter, and they took voluntary vows of poverty. They took, their whole life was committed to service to others, and they actually were vegetarian. They didn't believe in animal sacrifices, which was the only legitimate way to eat meat. And interestingly enough, Jesus had gotten crucified. He was kind of like an upstart. He was teaching. Actually, it's very interesting. We watched another documentary about Jesus in India. India has, especially in Kashmir, has all kinds of evidence, and also in Tibet has evidence that a Saint Isa had been in their midst for many years, in the years he was missing from the Bible, which was 18 years. That's a long time, especially if a 33-year-old person, that's like more than half of their life. And so, they have evidence that Jesus was, actually, they have a tomb in Kashmir, which shows evidence that it's many years old. And it's there's also a town in Pakistan called Murree. Murree is said to be the burial place of Mary, the mother of Jesus. So there's many really interesting things that are present. But basically that Jesus had, at his birth, he had wise men. You know, you've heard of this Christmas nativity scene. The wise men came with the gifts, and they were studying the stars. They were following the star, and that's how they found Jesus. So they were magi, or astrologers. So interestingly enough, many are saying that it looks like they're wise men from the east. This is what was understood. Came and had a lot of interest in Jesus, and then also Jesus seemed to disappear for many years, and it looked like he had interest in wherever the wise men came from. And he lived there for most of his life. He learned. Actually, it said there's records. He was in the Jagannath temple in Puri for some years. Everywhere he went, he kind of.
He stayed there for like 12 years.
Yeah, something like this. And also he. Of course, disrupted the religious hierarchies, that were present there too, like the caste system. He criticized the caste system long before the whole of Western society criticized the caste system. And actually, the Brahmins at the time, exalting themselves is not an ideal type of scenario. And he actually, it said that he actually tried to be assassinated. They tried to assassinate him, and he had to kind of flee and move on. But anyway, these things I thought were very interesting. So I tried to share them with my parents and friends during this time. Not like everyone was very receptive, but there was some reception. So. And actually, it was a good learning experience for us, because I was kind of caught in an environment where I really couldn't make too much spiritual advancement. I was just trying to fight to survive, to be honest. And it was good to kind of refresh on some of these things. But what you end up seeing, and what actually the people who made the documentaries ended up seeing, is that all of the religions have a lot of similarities. Like even in the Vedic religion, animal sacrifices were once given a pass. Yes, you can sacrifice animals, but under these circumstances. But actually, it's said in Kali Yuga that these animal sacrifices should be ended, because of the lack of mercy, the lack of proper eligibility to perform them. And so, yes. So actually, interestingly enough, there seems to be a ton of evidence that not only was Jesus and his friends very much not fond of animal killing and slaughter, even though there seems to be so much quote-unquote evidence. Hello, welcome. Nice for coming. There seems to be so much evidence that apparently I thought he ate fish. There's miracles. He gave everyone the fish, and he did this. And actually, if you study the Greek words, no, it does not translate out to fish. It just kind of was imposed there by later Christians, namely Paul, who wrote most of what's known as the New Testament of the Bible. But actually the Essenes, or the Nazarenes, that Jesus came from, the way they practice is they actually didn't do any animal sacrifices, and they didn't believe in any killing. We're talking about the universality of all religions. We're stemming from Bhagavad Gita and then working our way also to what the Christians taught. Similarly, in the Old Testament, which both Islam, Christianity, and the Bible, they all converge. It comes from the Abrahamic religion known as the Old Testament. interestingly enough, the Garden of Eden, or the original creation place, or the kingdom of God, was always vegetarian. There was no violence, there was no killing there. That's admitted in all of the religions. And then they said eventually that God gave sanction for killing animals. But, so that's actually there. Another interesting thing is that there's a very famous prophet in the Bible mentioned as Daniel. And Daniel was known for doing long fasting. And one of his programs is that he would only eat plant-based foods as well. And this was well known. And the Christians, when they do fast, and because they do have fasts, they actually, if they're very biblical, they'll turn to Daniel and they'll actually do like a Daniel fast. There's a whole dietary plan like it, even though funny enough some of the people have taken that dietary plan and added meat recipes to it and things like that, which kind of overcomes the whole point. But anyway, they're trying. So anyway, there is a lot of evidence, and then interesting, I thought the most interesting thing of everything I learned in my documentary searching with my family was that there's a very famous pastime of Jesus. One of the main reasons he got crucified is he disturbed the religious order of the time. Even when he went to India, it said that he disturbed the religious order of the time and what they were doing. And similarly, actually, the Buddha and why he was he was disturbing the Brahminical animal sacrifice. That was like the Buddha's main thing. So all these personalities, they all have many similar kind of dealings. When you give the truth, when most people are committed to not hearing the truth, they will revolt against you. Actually, you see this. There's personalities like Martin Luther King or Gandhi, where they're trying to give a certain realm of truth, and when it's disturbing the social order of how people are benefiting in a material way, yeah, then they might get killed or something like this. So this has happened, and one of the interesting things is that Jesus had flipped the tables in the Jerusalem temple, the main temple, and he said he only really got angry one time, but what he saw is that people were doing a lot of exchanges, business in the temple. There in the temple, it's supposed to be a place of God. And the story goes is that he flipped the tables, he chased around the money changers and he chased them with a whip, and he called it a den of thieves. He says, give that which is God's to God, and give that which is Caesar's to Caesar, the government's as far as money is concerned. But the temple should be for God, it shouldn't be for business. Hello, Deidre. Hare Krishna. So what ended up happening was that, well, what were they selling? Does anyone know? Well, what? What's that? Yes, animals. That was the main thing. They were selling animals, and the animals also were to be sacrificed. There was a really big business. Even like if you go to India and you go near a temple, they've got like flower garland sellers. Like, oh, offer to the Lord, and they make big business, But ultimately, they're not hurting any animals. But you see people that want to make a business, and we have to be very careful here. We have like a little gift shop and things like that. If we are not proper in our dealings, we can ultimately pervert the whole thing here, and we can try and make a business out of the temple. But so this was never recommended. This never recommended in the Vedas, never recommended, even though in Kali Yuga it's inevitable. And you see this, you go to India and you go to many temples and everything's big business, Unfortunately, I wish I could say, well, yeah, that'll never happen in ISKCON. No. I mean, you've seen a lot of things where it's very clear that's what happened. But I'm not here to criticize, though. I just have to make sure myself I don't do this thing. But anyhow, that's one thing. But interestingly enough, he let out all of the animals, and he wanted them to go free. And so this was really disturbing to the Jewish hierarchy, because this is how they made most of their money. This is how they made their livelihood. And here's this upstart, convincing all the people that this is proper. But interestingly enough, if you translate out the Greek, he didn't call them a den of thieves, actually. He called them, I think the name is Ichthyrus or something like this. I can't remember exactly, but if you translate it out, what it actually meant was murderers. You're a band of murderers. But interestingly enough, the presentation of the Bible that I got was that, he was very concerned about the money in the temple. But interestingly, he was more concerned about the murder in the temple. Because actually there was thousands of animals in the main temple being sacrificed a day, especially in the Abrahamic religion, where animal sacrifices were. And actually that was the only way you could properly eat meat. So it was actually the main economy for the place. Like you had to go to the altar and sacrifice. It was the only way sanctified got meat. And so even today, if one is truly practicing kosher, halal, or Christian way of how they're supposed to eat meat, they should really go and sacrifice at the temple, or there's a way to properly do it at the altar. So anyhow, I thought that was very interesting that the Greek word used was a murderer rather than a thief, because they're two different words. And interestingly enough, what you see is you get a picture of Jesus who is this kind, amazing type of person, but instead of, but is super okay with the killing of animals, and we should celebrate, and we should thank Jesus for the murdered animals, but actually that's not the case, and I thought that to be very interesting. And it's interesting enough because Prabhupada, when he started this movement, there's many rules of how to practice bhakti properly, but he focused on 4 main ones that will really give you no chance of practicing bhakti very, very well. And the 4 that he gave was intoxication, finding intoxication in your life, the killing of animals, or Nadia, Hare Krishna, the killing of animals. See, this is a very big danger Krishna has shown. The killing of animals, and then last, illicit sexual activity, so sex beyond the confines of marriage or beyond the confines ordained by God. Ultimately, it's best for children. Nice little devotee children are running around. My wife has a little devotee child in the belly coming. And then ultimately, gambling or cheating type of endeavors. Even you have to be careful with things like the stock market, investments, and things like that. It should be honest means of livelihood. So anyhow, places where cheating and all kinds of things, unwholesome things. So these were the 4 that Prabhupada gave us. But interestingly, you see in all the religions, whether it be at least all of the roots of the religion, you talk about the antiquity of the Hebrew religions. All of these are present. No gambling, no murdering or harming of animals, no intoxication, drunkenness. There is some room for you can have a little bit of alcohol, but you're not allowed to have what's called the strong drink. And the strong drink is forbidden in all the Hebrew religions, and that causes very deep drunkenness. So interestingly enough, our religion we're trying to practice nowadays, it has a ton of crossover here. So now these are some of the things I learned. I just wanted to share with you, because these are all things that will lead you down to the gates of hell. These are all the things that facilitate sense gratification. The reason people are eating meat, or why?
Gratification of the tongue.
Yeah, because it tastes good to them. They have developed a taste for it. Most people who are eating meat, they're not like cold-blooded murderers, and they're like, I just like to kill things. Most people eating meat aren't like that, actually. Most people eating meat, it's just they were taught that. I was taught that growing up. I ate for many years. But I was never kind of posited with, why I did that. What's the purpose of this? How did this really get here? So really, in one sense, there's an innocence to most people. It's not that most people are bad, But that being said, there is a deleterious effect that the eating of the animals has on our health. It's the number one cause of death via heart disease. That could be, it can be easily avoided by anyone who doesn't eat meat. At least she'll die another way. But it's the number one cause of death in the world today. And so on. So anyhow, yeah, I learned actually very interestingly, and I was quite encouraged to hear that, wow, the religion that I grew up with, the main fundamental principles are the same principles I'm trying to practice today. And the same principles of compassion and love for God. And, really becoming godly. That's what being Christian means. Christian means is to become Christ-like. And Christ was like a shining example of what we all should try to be like. So, and interestingly enough, the one problem I could say, I thought I might have, if I had to pick out anything I could have with Christ, is that, well, why didn't he, why didn't he provide any shelter to the animals? Why did he promote even animal killing, it seems like? But actually that was a fabrication of the later so-called apostle. And actually, interestingly enough, he had this apostle's name was Paul, and he had a ton of disagreement with Jesus' brother James, who was leading the disciple, and who was also a vegetarian. And I didn't realize it was proven already that he was doing like this. And but many of the interestingly enough, Jesus was very famous for saying, "This is my body and this is my blood," referring to my body as bread, and his blood was like a type of wine that they had. But interestingly enough, we are what we eat. What is our body? It's our body is what we eat. But he says, "Well, this is my body, the bread." And I don't know if that's exactly tied in exactly what he meant by it, but there's some parallels there. So anyway, we want to get away from the gates leading to hell, and that's lust, kama. Kama is anything to do with your own bodily sense gratification. The most obvious form of that is sex life, trying to enjoy sexual pleasure in this world. Now, naturally, that tendency is there, but there's a religious way to do that. There's a way sanctioned by God to do that, and we should try and learn. And actually, that's what Krishna is going to say in the next verses. So I'm going to read on, and then we'll stop there today. I just wanted to share some of these things. So go to verse 22 in Bhagavad Gita, 16:22. I'll just read the English. The man who's escaped these three gates of hell. And what are the three gates of hell?
Lust, anger, and greed.
Lust, anger, and greed. What's that in Sanskrit? Kama, Krodha, and Lobha. The man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. So what type of acts would one do instead of sense gratification? So instead of trying to make your tongue happy, instead of trying to make your sense of touch, your skin happy, instead of trying to, make your ears happy with this type of music or this thing, or eyes happy, or I want to see this, or let me go see the beautiful mountain scenery, let me go. Instead of sense gratification, what is the alternative? What and sense gratification leads to hell.
Self-realization.
Yes, he says self-realization. But what's that? What's the process to do that? Bhakti. Bhakti is like even beyond that. That's like the ultimate process to do that. But what's like kind of like step one?
Focus, meditation.
Yeah, you begin to kind of turn into inward. You become introspective. You begin, well, who am I? What's the point of life? In order to understand Vedanta, the qualification is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now let me inquire into the absolute truth, Brahma. Let me inquire, well, what is the actual meaning of life? You have to ask that question. I'm doing so many things every day, but what is the real meaning of life. I was talking to one of our friends today, and we were talking about sadhana, and he was telling me that he was just like a few setbacks on the sadhana. Does everyone know what is a sadhana? A practice of towards what? Okay, yes, a goal. So everyone has many sadhanas. Like many of you might have a sadhya goal. I want a house. So in order to get a house, I have to do a sadhana of getting to work. And I'll work, and then I'll get a house. Or I'll, maybe you want a wife, maybe you want this, you want that. So, all right, well, a wife needs this, so I'm going to work, get this, get that, and the other thing, and then I'll get, So many people have all their sadhanas. But actually, what's the only thing worth having a sadhana towards? He just says in this verse. What's that? Spiritual understanding, which starts with who you are. Well, who am I and what's the purpose of life? So really, our sadhana should always go towards this. We should perform acts conducive to self-realization, and then we'll gradually attain the supreme destination. The supreme destination is the spiritual abode, the place where the Lord exists, and we can exist with the Lord in loving exchanges for eternity. That's actually the ultimate, the supreme destination. But right now, we just have to figure out, who are we? What am I doing? What is the meaning of life? Unless we do that, there's no chance. We'll always go towards the kama, krodha, and lobha, the gates to hell instead. Unless your acts have something to do with self-realization, it does not matter. Actually, it will lead to hell instead. So ultimately, Krishna is warning us in this verse. So we'll go to 23. He tells us what to do. But he who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness, nor the supreme destination. So he tells you, what's the secret? What's the secret he just said? What part? Follow him, but how will you know what he says? Yes, know more about him. And the way to do that is actually through the scriptures. Like we're talking about the Western religions, Jesus was very famous for saying, I've not come to change the law, I've come to fulfill the law. And ultimately that's what we should understand. Okay, let's just say Mukunda was talking about bhakti being the highest goal. Bhakti is the highest goal. Now, but if we want to love somebody, I say, hey, Mukunda, I want to love you. And he's like, what are you talking about? We barely see each other. How are you talking about love? If you don't know somebody, how are you going to love them? Right? Oh, I love Krishna, I love this, I love this. What do you know about Krishna? You have to get to know someone. If you really want to love them, my good friend, what is your name?
My name?
Yes.
Purna.
Purna. Ah, full. And your name, mother?
Lakshmi.
Lakshmi. Yes, I remember you've come. And the small one?
Shreya.
Shreya. Purna, Lakshmi, and Shreya. So, Purna and Lakshmi, how long have you been married, if you don't mind me asking?
4 years.
4 years. So when did you meet?
We know each other from childhood.
Oh, from childhood you've known each other. This is perfect. It's a perfect arrangement for love to blossom. Why? Because they know each other. And if you know somebody, then you could love them. If you don't know them, how can you have love? That's why even in arranged marriage, it's said that the love grows over time. Why? Because you know the person more and more and more and more. But if you don't know somebody, there's no chance of love. So similarly with God, if we don't know, oh, I love Krishna, I love God, everyone telling me. I was just with my brother's friends last night. Just really quickly, they dropped in. And the one boy, I know him since he was a small boy. And he was so happy to see me, give me a hug, and we were talking a little bit. And he actually had the famous Leonardo da Vinci painting with the man reaching out to God. And actually the man's finger is bent and God's finger is fully extended. And all he has to do is just straighten out his finger and he could also touch God. But ultimately, he was like, oh, I love God. I was like, yes, this is very good, but you have to get to know God a little bit if you want to love Him. So similarly, if we want to really share love with God and experience a life filled with love of God, what do you know about God? You should try to know. So actually, that's why Krishna says, he who discards the scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. The scriptures are where you get to know God. You can't just say, oh, I love God, I love God, I love God. I'll just meditate and I love God. A lot of this Sadhguru and Osho, all these kind of philosophers, so-called philosophers now popping up are gurus. They say like this, but actually, in order to know God, you should actually understand, well, what has God said? What does God do? That's why the number one recommendations are Shravanam, hear about God. And then hear Kirtanam, share what you've heard about God, like His holy name. We share the name of God. That's the main thing we do here. And then this will facilitate what? Smaranam, remembering. And then you can actually remember God. But if you don't hear about God, if you have nothing, if you don't know God, there's no chance of loving Him. So we must try to know Him. So he who discards the scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection. Anyone here looking for perfection? You should all say yes. Perfection is good. The perfection of your life. You should all say yes. I would like to achieve this perfection. You might not think it's possible, but if you could achieve it, it would be wonderful. It is possible. The Vedas say it is possible to achieve perfection in this life. So please try to achieve it. Nor happiness. Who's looking for happiness? Everyone. You know how I know you're looking for happiness? Because you exist. This is even a bug is looking for happiness. A pig is looking for happiness. Every form of life is looking for happiness. And the supreme destination. What if I told you there's a place so filled with happiness and love and enjoyment, and you can enjoy there eternally? Would you like to go? Yes. Well, there is this type of place is there, and all the main religions speak of this place. And actually, interestingly enough, we were talking a lot about Jesus. Do you know where He said this place is? The kingdom of God? It's not over there. It's among you. Yes, it's among you. It's within. It's actually possible. But the difference is a change of consciousness from material consciousness to what?
Spiritual consciousness.
What did you say?
Spiritual.
Yes, but even better than that. Krishna consciousness, yes. That's why we're here. Krishna consciousness. So this is ultimately what we're looking for. So none of those things are possible for one who discards the scriptural injunctions and acts according to their own whims. What is one's own whims?
Conceptions.
Yeah, they're just like whatever one desires. Oh, I want to do like this. Someone say, well, what does Krishna say on how to do that thing? If we don't even consider that, I just want to do that. I just want to watch a movie. I just want to eat this. I just want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do that. You'll never get happiness, perfection, or the supreme destination these ways. This is Krishna saying. I'm not saying. I believe Krishna, but this is what Krishna says. But guess what most people do instead? They act to whatever they want. Whatever they wake up, what does my whim say today? I'll do this. They have no care for scriptural injunction. They have no care for what God wants for us. This is the problem. And then actually this is the reason that we can't be happy. But anyway, he ends the chapter saying, one should understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. This is Krishna saying. This is what one should do. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. Now God in the spontaneous, loving realm, it's not like everything, well, what does the book say? All right, let me check with the book. All right, God, I'll act like this, like you. But in the beginning, because we're so conditioned to being whimsical, because we're so conditioned towards acting against God, and we go through the 3 gates of hell. What was the 3 gates of hell we mentioned earlier in the class today? Lust, anger, and greed. And what's the Sanskrit? Kama, Krodha, and Lobha. Yes. And what is kama again? Yes, yes. But what is it's sense gratification. So whatever the body wants, whatever, or even not just the body, however the mind wants to engage the body to fulfill the senses, this is called kama. It's not just like, all right, well, I'll just avoid sex for the rest of my life. No, it's not like that. Even if you see on the street, some man, the ice cream truck is coming. You say, ding, you hear the song, whatever the stupid songs are, and you say, oh, I want to go get that. That's actually kama, believe it or not. There's some lust is there. It's much more pervasive. You see a sign on the billboard, or you see an ad on YouTube. Oh, new movie comes out, blah, 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 blah. Oh, very good. I'm going to go watch that movie. Is this familiar? Yes, we all do like this, right? This is kama, and actually this leads us to hell, according to Krishna. And ultimately it leads us to not being able to be happy, because we're acting whimsically, and we don't actually consider, well, what does God want me to do with my time? What is the best recommendation on how to use a human body? Did you know that? You're giving a special gift? Who here thinks this is my body? Who thinks they're the owner of this body? No, none of you. Wow, am I the only fool in the room? Okay, very good. So whose body is it? Michael says it's Krishna's body. Did anyone else come to that conclusion? Whose body? If it's not your body, whose body is this? It's a rental body. Tanmay says we're renting the body. Okay, very good. When you rent a car, where's Piyush? She was just renting a car not that long ago. When you rent a car, there's a contract. Right? Who's rented a car before? There's a contract on how you're supposed to use the car. Did you know that when you rented this body, there's a contract on how you're properly supposed to use the body? And then there's punishment if you don't use it properly. Did you know? What is this called? What's the contract? Like dharma. Dharma is this contract. Use the body in dharma, and you can continue. I'll even give you a better body later on. But if you use the body in adharma, then you're going to have to pay a fine. And these are the gates to hell, and these are the very unsavory things that come. So you have to know such rules and regulations. You should understand what is duty, what is dharma, and what is not duty, what is adharma. And the way to know that is the regulations of the scriptures. Even this Bhagavad Gita, this is the essence of all scriptures. You should know very clearly what Krishna is saying and what he's referencing. Then there's other things as well. So we have to know. We have to know what is duty and what is not duty. We can't just think, oh, I love God. I'll do like this. I'll be fine. Sometimes I would get on the case of some of the boys, and they'll say, Krishna knows exactly he knows my heart. Yes, but do you know his heart? Do you know his heart? That's the thing. We do think, he knows your heart, and he knows you're kind of chasing some lust or something like this. No problem. But do you know his heart? We must know. The scriptures give us a portal to his heart. And then, over time, these rules and regulations won't be so important. But in the beginning, they're very important. We must know his heart first. So that's my presentation for today. Again, actually, all of the great spiritual traditions, the goal, I'm going to read them again, is to develop these godly qualities and how to act. And again, it's fearlessness. Why? Because you're fully in full faith of the Lord. Such faith in God, you're fearless. You don't care what happens. You know that God is always maintaining and protecting you. Purification of one's existence. The striving to purify one's life. Why? By bringing dharma to the forefront and removing adharma. Cultivation of spiritual knowledge. Understanding the reality of what's going on in this world. What can really give anyone happiness? And Michael was talking spiritual consciousness. Yes. Charity. Being charitable. Being like, you know what? It's not all for my enjoyment. Let me give. So that others can enjoy as well. And not even like for enjoyment, also give because this is pleasing to God and pleasing to others. Self-control. Not just hearing all the ice cream music or the ad for the movie and being like, okay, let's go. No, be very controlled. Understand who you are. What is really important. Performance of yajna or sacrifice. And we were mentioning, even all the religions say, don't sacrifice animals. Don't sacrifice other living entities. Sacrifice that which God wants. Krishna says what he wants. Did you know? Patram pushpam palam jalam. You've heard of this verse? Like this. Food, water, a leaf, flower, fruit. So that's what we're doing. We're about to make an offering. Actually, I'm going to get off here. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So anyhow, I'll read the rest of them. Study of the Vedas. We should understand the injunctions of the scriptures, what Krishna has done, what he really wants for mankind, what each of his incarnations teach us about what we should do. Austerity means we should be disciplined, and it's not just whatever whims come up. Oh, I want ice cream, I want movies, I want this, I want that, and next thing you know, your life feels empty. Simplicity, it's simple. Understand a life simple to God. Non-violence, very important, not being cruel to others, especially on your plate. There should be no reason that animals need to come on your plate. We should not be violent. They have lives. They don't want to be killed. One of the documentaries I watched is how much fear and pain and suffering that they're all experiencing. So we should strive not to kill them. It's almost compulsory. If you want the mercy of God in your life, and we all want the mercy of God, we have to be merciful to others. And so, don't give money to the people who just brutally murder them. It's a very brutal process. Paul McCartney, in one of the Beatles, he said, if the slaughterhouses had glass walls, everyone would be vegetarian. If you actually saw what was happening inside of these places, you would never ever consider eating these things. Especially for cleanliness standards, but it's just very, very cruel. So anyway, non-violence, ahimsa, is very important. Godly quality. Truthfulness, being honest. Freedom from anger. Renunciation, being detached from all kinds of things. Tranquility, always being at peace. Aversion to fault-finding. It doesn't matter what Richa is doing, or Meghna is doing, or Tanmay is doing. It's what's most important is, what am I doing? How am I actually getting rid of my own faults? Compassion, being loving others, seeing if somebody is struggling, how can I help? Freedom from covetousness, that's like non-greed, not being greedy. This is mine, that's mine. No, nothing is yours. Everything's a rental here. So just follow the contract. You'll have everything you need. Gentleness, being gentle. Modest, not being, oh, I'm so great. Oh, just kind of stay humble, stay in your lane. Steady determination, especially if you're godly. Steady determination to be more godly. Vigor, strength, doing it with great strength and enthusiasm. Forgiveness, forgiving others who make mistakes. Inevitably, you make so many mistakes, and so many others will make mistakes. Fortitude. Excuse me, I have to actually look up what that one means. Who knows? I think it means steady.
Steady or strength.
What's that?
I think it's steady or strength.
Fortitude. Courage, actually, in pain or adversity. So we have to be brave and willing to go on, even if it's unpleasant, even if your parents don't like it, even if your friends don't like it. We must be courageous and continue going. And sorry, I lost my spot. Cleanliness, be clean. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Be very clean with what you offer to the Lord. Be very clean with your own habits. You should always remember, this is a rental body. Keep the body inside and outside clean. Not just washing the body multiple times a day is very good, but be very clean. What am I listening to? Am I listening to all kinds of vulgar things? Am I, what am I taking in? Proper things? What am I consuming? What am I watching? What am I hearing? Is it clean? There's so much music out there, it's not clean. It's very perverted or perverse, thinks of, and same with TV shows and movies and things like that. Is it clean or is it not clean? You'll know. If there's talking about naked ladies or naked guys and you see all this in the movie or you're hearing about this on your music, it's not clean. We should strive for that which is clean. Both inside and outside. The best way to always be clean, Prabhupada is saying, is actually chant the Maha Mantra. Always have the names of God playing in your ears and always having things related to God in all of the senses. Krishna consciousness, the best way to be clean. Freedom from envy. We just, and the passion for honor. We're so much competing with everyone in this world. We're competing for sense gratification. Oh, this person has this thing, I want to have like this, and we're always competing. Actually, we shouldn't be envious of everyone. You have everything you need, actually. If we had spiritual realization, we'd know we could be grateful for what we have, and know we have everything we need. And if more comes, we use it for the Lord's service. If we don't have enough, then we better figure out how to be content. So, these are the transcendental qualities. Godly men are endowed with this divine nature. I hope very wholeheartedly that you have this for yourself. So what we're going to do now is... Mukunda, you didn't happen to bring that harmonium, huh?
No.
I want you to play it here one time, because I also want to see if I can play it. But
I forgot everything I'm supposed to bring.
no, that's okay. Do you want to lead kirtan, Mukunda?
If you would like to.
I would like you to lead some kirtan. So does anyone have any question or rebuttal? Anything you need clarification on? Does that all make sense, the presentation? You should try to know God, and then you can actually have love for God. And then you could actually be happy and achieve the perfection of your life and the supreme destination beyond your life. This is the secret. Krishna will reveal all of it to you. Read Bhagavad Gita. Hear about his pastimes in Bhagavatam. Perfection is guaranteed by this simple process. Everything else you're worried about, it's not as important actually. But you can do it, no problem. Do those other things. But make time for this very important thing. And then you're assured happiness. Everyone is looking for happiness. You're doing everything you're doing because you're looking for happiness. But you just haven't realized yet that the real way to happiness is this way. It's not the whatever plan you were told or your student advisor told you or your parents might have told you or this, that, and the other. The real way to happiness is letting God guide you. So do like this. Okay? It's 107, but it's about to be 108. So what we'll do, I'm going to just chant a little bit of Jaya Radha Madhava. Thanks